All right, guys, we're coming off what was the biggest game of the year so far, a 8-point loss to Alabama. A game where we brought the energy, where Pearlville or Jungle City was in effect. The crowd was there, game day was there, the moment felt right. We just didn't pull it off. But on a good news standpoint, we have a special guest on the podcast, and we'll start with a little summary of the game, maybe. Then we'll get into the interview, and then we'll finish with the summary, the entire usual summary we do. But everybody, welcome the legend Cinmeon Bowers to the podcast. Welcome.
How y'all doing, man?
We got
Thanks
him
for
on,
having me,
guys.
boss.
Yeah, no problem. We're very excited, man. We like I said, we got some questions for you. I'm sure we'll just have some conversation too. We were kind of looking through some of your Wikipedia, and I heard some other podcasts you were on and stuff, and I didn't realize. I knew you went to JUCO before. I knew you were a D1 recruit before. I think there's a story there about how you went from being a D1 recruit to at JUCO and then at Auburn. I don't know if you could just kind of walk us through that process of getting recruited at a high school.
In high school, man, I was getting recruited. I was getting highly recruited, but I had some troubles, you know. I was getting recruited by UConn, who else? Florida State. A lot of schools recruited me, but in high school, I had an incident where I got shot. I got shot 9 times in my leg, so that kind of set me back like a year and a half, 2 years. So I had to be classified, you know. When I went back to school, my grades went up the part, so I had to go to junior college route. I went to the top JUCO though, Chipola. You know, I did my thing there. I had more troubles there. I was accused of a crime I didn't do, you know, so that kind of red flagged me going to FSU, and that's how I kind of ended up at Auburn. Bruce Pearl gave me a chance, you know, and I appreciate that. You know, I did my thing there. You know, I graduated. You know, I'm in a good position right now in life. You know.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I don't know if you want to get into it anymore. I think it's kind of a crazy story I heard on a different podcast about getting shot. 9 times, and you've recovered to play D1 basketball at Auburn. I don't know if you want to get into that story or talk about the recovery of how can you even come back from being shot that many times and play the level of basketball that you've ended up playing professionally all over the world.
Man, I just want to thank God, man. You know, without him, man, it would never been nothing. You know, so I kept my faith. You know, and just kept working, bro. You know, that was a scary moment, man, when I got shot, bro. 2 shooters. I was set up. I was inside of a car, and you know, they just let off shots, bro. I was just a victim, you know, the gun violence. You know, my boy, he rushed me to the hospital, and that was that, bro. And they took me to jail too after I got shot. Like 10 days after.
You got shot
Yeah.
and then had to go to jail afterwards. There wasn't enough insult on injury there. They didn't were like, you already got shot. We don't need to do anything else.
Man, it was crazy, bro. I couldn't believe it, bro. They locked me up on the bed. I woke up out of surgery and I was handcuffed to the bed. And they took me downtown, bro, for questioning.
It's
I was in there for
crazy.
I was in the infirmary. They had me in the infirmary part, you know, in like the hospital part of the jail, but it was still in jail. You know, so I stayed there for like 3 days, got out, went to rehab, started back working out with my trainer, Steve Becker. He based out of Mequon, Wisconsin. So I just got stronger, bro. And before you know it, like 7 months in, after I got shot, I was back to running. You know, I couldn't believe it, you know. But
it's a pretty
I really feel like that's a part of the story that, like, I don't know, we've all seen your Auburn journey and your pro journey. I just think that the most remarkable part of the whole journey is that recovery is just really insane. I can't, just breaking a bone in a car accident or something like that, but to be shot, I mean, incredible. 7 months later running, that's just, my mind's blown about that.
I lost my step a little bit though, you know, but you know, in due time I got it back.
I was gonna say, by the time you got to Auburn, you were looking pretty good. You were part of Coach Pearl's first 2 teams. Just curious.
Yeah, I was his first signing, man.
You're his first guy. I know.
That's my school. That's my school, man.
And I think that's why you're so like popular among Auburn basketball fans because you kind of represented this changing of the guard. And the first couple of years, it was a full rebuild. You got to be part of that. What were your impressions of Coach Pearl coming in? What was he like just to have as a coach at the SEC level?
He's a legendary coach, so I was excited to play for him and be his first signing. He was suspended for a few years, so that was a big deal for him to recruit me and bring me on. So.
What was that recruitment like when he was suspended? Did you get to talk to somebody? Was there a gap there where you were like, I want to play for Bruce Pearl?
I couldn't talk to him though.
Was there some little
he had like
antics?
50 more days. He had like 50 more days left, and he could start talking to recruits. So I didn't talk to I didn't talk to Bruce. I talked to Tony.
Oh yeah, Tony.
I think Coach Tony. I think
Yeah. He was at Tennessee with him, I believe, and then he came over to Auburn.
Yeah. Coach Tony recruited me, man.
One of the things you're most remembered for, I think, among the fans is when you were forced into action at point guard, which Bruce has called you played the 6 for him. He wouldn't call it the 1. Did you ever have a moment during those games where you're like, holy cow, I'm playing at an SEC school and I'm running the point, I'm running the show?
Yeah, that shit was crazy, bro. It was crazy, man. I was surprised, bro. We ain't had nobody to distribute the ball, bro. Everybody wanted to shoot, bro. So
yeah. Well, and you always had such a unique skill set for your size, and I think that's and just how you were built. And I think Jackson maybe has a question that I might steal here. Just you would rip down a rebound, and you got some Charles Barkley comparisons and stuff, and you would just go, and you were down the floor, and it was just such a unique thing for us as fans. And I think that has all played into this, who you're remembered as a player over there.
Right. They always talk about it, man. I see it on Twitter all the time.
I don't know if you get to see this current team or not. Today, KD had an exact moment. I mean, your reputation and your playing style ripples through the years now.
That's
KD,
my little bro, man.
I was wondering if you felt a connection with KD because I feel like you guys have a connection. The way you guys play, the energy you bring. KD ripped a rebound down and just jet up the court. I was like, that's so Cinmeon. He knew it was his ball and he was going to take it all the way. And I'm sure. At times it was great. At times I'm sure Bruce got frustrated. I don't know if Bruce ever encouraged you or if he was frustrated or what he had to say.
No, he used to be frustrated. I just pushed it, bro. I didn't think the pass. And it was an outlet. I'm a pass, but the guards, they know, just run with me, bro. I get it, let's play basketball, man.
Who's gonna stand in front of you running down the floor, right? Like who wants some of that?
I asked, we had Bruce Pearl on earlier this year. We asked him a big personalities team. Like if you had a top 5 guys that bring personality to the team, you were one of those top 5 along with KD and Cardwell. And if you're watching on YouTube, Cinmeon's getting his hair cut right now, which is just, I feel like it's just so on brand. I'm absolutely loving it. And one of your other great moments, I have a reel. Shout out.
Yes, sir.
What's his name? Where's he at? So we can get it out to the audience.
I'm Rashad, man. I'm in Wisconsin. Remember racing in Wisconsin.
Okay.
All right. Our 3 Wisconsin listeners, go get your haircut with Rashad.
Sure.
But you always brought this personality, and I have this hilarious reel where you're in a press conference in some hallway, and Bruce is talking about something. You got his arm around him, and you give him a kiss on the cheek. This is the video here. What were you saying, or what was he saying that made you do this? And then was it ever brought up again?
Oh yeah, he was like, "Sin, what the hell?" Yeah, I think I had a bad game, bro, and he had benched me. He had put a substitute in. We won the game, and I learned from him. And he was right. So, he gave my boy a kiss, man. That was one of the best coaches I ever got coached by, man.
I think I remember that now that you say it, because I think the context for that was. He was saying how important you were to that team. And Bruce has a great way, even if he has to do something that, doesn't feel good at the time, like he is so behind his guys. And I think he was talking about in part in that interview, like, maybe tonight it was a struggle, but like, look at all the great things Sim has done for us. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He definitely sub you out, bro. He trusts every player on his bench.
Yep.
He knew how to pick players up when they were down at the right times and when to rough them up a bit, right? When they need to be roughed up a bit. I don't know if you have any other moments where you felt like he really tore into you because you did something you disagreed with or anything like that.
Oh yeah, all the time, even in practice.
Yeah, he's
We
known
had
to. He's
that
known to.
relationship.
Is there like
Yeah,
a
we had a good relationship, you know. So I just received it, you know. I never gave him back, so
and that's
you know
part
what
of
I
it, I
mean.
guess. He builds these relationships so strong that when he does chew into you, it's from a kind of like a fatherly place of like he wants what's best for me situation.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
have my own bedroom at his house. You ain't never tell y'all that.
he had his own bedroom.
I have my own bedroom.
Oh wow.
Tell us about that. What was that about?
Yeah. No, I just used to claim. You know, I never really went over there though. I tell
But you
Coach,
put your name on it.
this is my bedroom right here, Coach. Whenever I come over, man.
That's
Yeah.
funny. So
You
you were
know,
you're a great rebounder at your size, especially. You almost averaged a double-double, I think, both years at Auburn.
Mhm.
Any like secrets, tips? Like what made you such an elite rebounder at the size you were, even going up against bigger dudes?
I just wanted it more, bro. You know, it was like, you know, what I mean, you got to be quick off the rebound. Bro. So I would just always just try to beat them off the floor, bro. Just grab it and just go. You know what I mean? It's dope,
you,
bro.
you
You got to be.
know,
It's all about technique too, though. You know.
Yeah.
I was
have
only
you,
six. I'm only 6'5", 6'6". I was rebounding against. I mean, cats like 6'11", 7 foot. You know, so
Yeah.
it was fun, bro. Fun and tough.
have you followed Chris Moore? Have you seen him play? He's kind of, I think he's a little shorter than you, but he brings that same tenacity, a little wider body, gets those rebounds on guys that are taller than him. I don't know if it's Charles Barkley, the same kind of thing. Is it you're shifting your weight in there? Is there like a little bit, the referee's a little let go and you can kind of hip check some people out
Yeah,
of the way? Is that part of the
yeah.
deal?
I had them big hips, bro. Yep. Get him right
Oh
out the
yeah.
way, man. A little bully boy, man. You know.
We miss it. You bring like something that you just don't see that often anymore,
Right.
We saw a great atmosphere today in Neville Arena. It's called Neville Arena now. You never played in Neville Arena, you played Auburn Arena, and the atmosphere was
Right.
different back then. I mean, people are still building. I think Auburn fans
What's
bought in.
what's the name of it now?
It's called Neville Arena now. It's named after the
Devil?
Neville family that donated a lot of money last year to get it named after them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you didn't know that? You didn't know it's got a new name?
I didn't know that, bro.
I mean, if you donated the right amount, it could have been Bowers Arena,
Exactly. Ask how much it costs.
You just need you just got to put it on top of it. They'll know, it's Jordan Hare. It's Bowers Neville Arena. But the atmosphere, everything was different back then. It was a lot of people switching over from the other sport into basketball, and they balled into Bruce, quickly and came out to the games. But it's just so different now. Is there any moments early in your playing career at Auburn that really stuck out? That like, man, they brought the atmosphere of this game. It was different than it used to be.
When we beat Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I predicted that, bro. Remember that? Y'all remember that interview?
No, tell us about it.
Yeah, we had an interview that day, bro. I mean, they interviewed me. That I told them my guard's better than their guards, you know.
Kareem Canty, right?
Came out. Yeah, Kareem had like 30. Tyler Harris had like 20. I had about 12 and 8. I mean, it was a big win though, bro. I mean, it was nice, bro.
That was the first big one. That was the first big one, that Auburn had in a long time, especially against Kentucky, obviously.
It was crazy, but we lost every game almost, and we beat Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. I think what was it? The first time we had beat them in a really long time. Do you remember how long it was, Matt?
It had been a while, a long time.
Like a decade or two, and we still haven't beaten them in Lexington since the 80s. So we're hoping to break that. But you guys broke a record, and Bruce is always talking about making history. You made history by beating Kentucky at home for the first time in a long time. Is there any other moments that like stuck out to you that like he sold making history and we made it while I was there?
We beat Arkansas. That was a history. We beat Arkansas at Arkansas.
Mm. Did we ever have any court stormings while you were there? Did anybody storm the court?
Kentucky, right?
Was that Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky.
Yeah. Did that help like validate your decision to go to Auburn? You finally, it's always been known as a football school, but now we've turned that corner and you got to really experience that D1 basketball atmosphere, beating Kentucky, something like I'm sure you felt this way. Everyone's confident and they're like, why wasn't I recruited by Kentucky? You go to Auburn, you beat them. It's got to feel good, right?
Right. Feel amazing, bro. They left the game early. They were so embarrassed.
I remember.
Seriously, go watch the footage, bro. They left like a minute 30.
You're right. They were sneaking guys off. I remember that.
I hit the free throw. I smacked the court, told them go home.
So we have to ask this. You know, we've been really lucky to have a lot of awesome guests, yourself included. We're pumped to have you on today. Charles Barkley is kind of our white whale. Like, we would love to talk to Charles Barkley. Did you ever have much contact with him in your couple years at Auburn? I know he's around the program some, but did you ever get to chop it up with him at all?
Yeah, I talked with Charles a few times.
What was he like?
Down to earth dude, speak his mind. I talked to him at the golf. We had a golf convention one time. You know, he always at the golf convention. Do them guys, they still do that? Go golfing?
I think so. I think
he had that infamous swing for so long, and I think he just did an interview like last week or the week before where he said he's probably asked to do like 5 or 6 golf tournaments or fishing tournaments every week. And so he just started he said, I've gotten used to just lying now and saying I'm busy, even if I'm not, because I don't want to do it all the time. So
you see how real he is, man. Yeah, Charles, he's a good guy, man.
Did you ever feel like, you know, there was the comparisons just from body size, the positions you played? Did you ever, I don't know if he ever reached out to give you any like kind of like, hey man, people keep comparing us, or hey, I was in the same kind of, you know, body size position. Like I said, did he give you any kind of special advice other than just what he usually talks to basketball players about?
Yeah, no, he just said, you know, keep going hard. You know, he liked my heart, you know, and he just gave me good advice, encouragement, bro, just to keep going. You know, that was early on. That was like our second year of, knowing him. You know what I mean? And him coming around with Bruce around. So, you know, right now, you know, they've been around about what, 10 years now, 7, 8 years. Bruce been there about 7, 8 years.
I think this is year number 9.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I know it's way better relationship between them two too. So.
Have you ever thought about going into media or doing any kind of radio or anything? I listened to another podcast you were on. It was super enjoyable. All your interviews during your playing time were so enjoyable. Have you ever jumped on to stuff? Has anybody ever brought you out to do radio or TV or anything?
No, bro, that's it. It's coming though, man. I'm trying to be on stars.
You got to start embracing that. Push out there. I think people might be interested.
Yeah.
You know, after college, you got to kind of live every like 20-year-old's dream and go to Europe and play professional basketball. I know that a lot of people want to play NBA and everything, but I always wanted to travel the world and see things. You got to go do it as a basketball player. I think you went to Tokyo, you went to Serbia, I think at the end, and there's 2 or 3 other places. I don't know if we could kind of walk maybe through each one of your teams and hear maybe some culture shock, what it's like as a guy from a small town in Wisconsin to go play abroad in these different crazy places.
It was very different, bro. My first year, I went to Turkey. I stayed for like 10 days. I couldn't take it, bro. They woke. It was nice, but it was different. You know, I'm coming from college. They woke me up with they wake the city up with a bell. You know what I mean? They ring through the whole city, and they walk around with turbans on. You know, I wasn't used to that, bro. I was kind of like nervous, scared, you know. So I left. I should have stayed though, but after that, I went to Israel for about 7, 8 months. Israel is like my best stay. You know what I mean? They love Americans. You know, they treat you like family. You know, the whole league it's nice. It's a nice league.
Was there a lot of, did you have like some food, you know, that you never had before? And you mentioned kind of, I think it's like the calls to prayer maybe in Turkey you're talking about. You know, is there anything that you like missed or anything you just were like, man, could I get some Pop-Tarts or some cereal in here? Like,
oh man, I used to stay like having people like send me care packages, bro. And, like, I wasn't used to their snacks, you know, so I was, you know, they had one spot in Israel I went to, you know, they served home fries and wings. That's all I ate every day. Home fries and wings. And grilled chicken, bro.
We have quite the connection with Israel now. You know, we played in Israel this summer. We interviewed some people from Israel. Bruce has gotten super into Israel stuff. Did you get to Israel through that? Some connections from Bruce, or was that just on your own?
No, that was on my own. my agent had found me the job. Bruce is Jew. He is Jewish. I see they went on a trip to Israel this year.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal, you know. And I think over the years, Bruce has embraced the Israel stuff a little more. And I think now we're talking about Leor Berman's on the team.
Israel.
Is you got any advice for? I heard Leor Berman might play professionally over there. I heard Dylan Cardwell was getting scouted over there. Is there any kind of advice you would have for these Auburn guys that might end up over there?
Oh man, it's amazing. I feel like they could definitely try and experience the culture and the living. Beautiful beaches. It's a city like Miami called Tel Aviv. It's beautiful beaches, malls. Just great vibe, man. Israel, place to be.
Did you go to Japan after that or Serbia after that?
After that, I went to the Philippines for about a month. I played in the Philippines for about a month, and then out of the Philippines, that's when I went to where I go. I forgot what
Tokyo.
I went to. No, I went to Tokyo before I went to Serbia. I took a break, I believe, and then I went to Tokyo. And then I mean,
these are all the places I would love to go to. Any of these places, it's so cool that you've got to play these. I don't know if you've like.
Tokyo was like the cleanest country I've ever been to, bro. No junk on the floor. Great nightlife. Everything like exotic, bro. It was nice, man. I had a great experience in Tokyo. I had a bike. That's how we got around on a bike and train. No cars.
Did you ever, like, when you go to these places, do they have kind of a welcoming committee that tells you what to watch out for or what not to do? I know, man, a guy your size in Tokyo, I'm a normal size guy. I went to Tokyo and I stuck out. You're 6'5"? Right. You would be the tallest man in the whole country, it probably felt like. Is there any, like, they're like, don't do this, don't do that when you first get there, or you just kind of let go?
No, they just let me free, bro. The players give me advice, and one that speak English, and that's about it, bro. It's pretty safe over there, though, It's safer than America.
Now, Tokyo might be, but is Serbia?
Serbia was Serbia, man. Serbia is wild.
I heard the fans were pretty crazy. They have like ultras with flares and flags and all this stuff. Was it a little different than SEC basketball?
Yeah, the fans will kill you, bro. Like I couldn't even go check out my homeboy game, because I was on a different team, and they take it very serious, bro. So I wasn't even allowed to go to the game. Crazy. Fans were amazing, man. Serbia, I was there about 4 months. That's where I got him from. Cass.
Oh, no way.
What's up,
For those that are just listening, he's got a little Frenchie by his chair there. I love the colors on him, the black and beige there.
I got a lot of Frenchies, bro. I breed dogs. I breed Frenchies.
Yeah, that was next on our list. I was gonna, I think we have one more Auburn related one that I wanted to get into what you're doing, post playing career here. Yeah. The last one I think I had for Auburn stuff is just if you keep up with any of the past players. I know you were talking about Kareem Canty earlier, how you guys scored together at Kentucky. I don't know if you keep up with any of the current players or, what your relationship's like.
Yeah, I talk to Kareem sometimes. I talk to Tyler, TJ Dunning, TJ Lane. I talk to Casey sometimes. I holla at Antoine. I still keep in touch with the guys.
All those guys, yeah. That's a good group.
Yeah, I mean, a couple more. Probably Bryce. I talked to Bryce. Who else? Malik Dunbar. He was just at my house. Malik Dunbar, that's my boy.
Well, tell Malik to come on. He said he might come on a couple times, and we have not grabbed him yet. So you got to let him know you had a good time on this.
He acting Hollywood.
He's a busy man. He's playing in Canada, I think, now. So I don't know how many other guys are still going at it. I know I think I heard somewhere else that you were still playing, some rec league stuff, kind of staying in shape.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I play in Atlanta, nice little league. I play for fun though, bro. I don't.
Are you in Atlanta now? Man. Are you you live in Atlanta or Wisconsin, or where you at?
I got spots everywhere, bro.
Okay. Well, I was getting to it that we talked on Instagram a bit. I was just curious what you were up to these days and kind of get you out there to the fans to see what you're up to. I know you're doing something with Frenchie Bulldogs, and I know you had some other businesses. So just let us know what you're up to.
Yeah, well, I got into breeding dogs 2 years ago. I've been doing that. And in 2019, I started my group home business. That's where I deal and take care of the mentally ill people. I care for them, 24 hours of the day. I hire staff, first shift, second shift, third shift. I've been doing that for going on year 4, I believe. I started in
How'd you get into that?
2019. My mom, she was in the business for about 20 years, and I knew I don't want to keep going overseas for $5,000-6,000 a month. So I started my business while I was still playing basketball in 2019. And I just in the pandemic hit, bro. I just stopped going over there, bro. I just focused on my business. And I just been expanding ever since. It's been doing me good, man.
Yeah,
Good, bro.
entrepreneurial
I'm blessed,
mindset.
bro. Yeah, I'm blessed, bro. I want to get into trucking, bro. I'm about to do everything, though, bro. I'm an entrepreneur now, bro.
Yeah, maybe somebody that's listening does trucking, can reach out to you. And with the Frenchie, I think the biggest thing is the Frenchie Bulldogs. I love a Frenchie Bulldog. I love a regular Bulldog. How do people get in touch with you if they want one? If you're breeding them, people want to buy one.
Contact me on Instagram at No Deal Kennels. NODEAL Kennels. KENNELS.
All right.
On Instagram, or hit me up on Instagram, SimCity. You call me. I got good deals. I got a litter that just dropped. So
and you can get it about anywhere. You can get it down south. You get it in Auburn. Get it in Alabama.
Yeah, I'm fly first class.
All right.
We could be in Hawaii, Canada. I'm coming.
All right. Yeah. I heard there's another basketball player. I believe an announcer for TNT maybe or ESPN that breeds French Bulldogs too. Do you know what I'm talking about? He's got little gray ones that are real valuable.
Oh, you talking about Kendrick Perkins?
Yeah, is he your competition?
Oh yeah. He got fired.
You got to go Bowers. If you're an Auburn fan, you can't be getting from the other guy. You got to get from Bowers. Matt, you got any other questions? Cinmeon, you got some other stuff you want to say?
Nah, man. I appreciate you guys, bro, for having me, bro.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
I'm always down to talk, bro. You can call me whenever.
Yeah. All right, we'll take you up on that. We appreciate your time, and just awesome to hear what you're doing. And just know, I think you made a really big impact on a lot of people with this whole Auburn basketball thing. Hopefully, you feel like you were part of the ground level building it up, because you really were.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. I think doing it at the barbershop's pretty badass. So
I was going to say, good job, Rashad. Good job, man.
It's looking good, even from the start to the end. We'll post it before. Hey, right there. We'll post the before and after. This is where he started the interview, and he ended the interview looking fresh.
For sure, man.
Cool,
appreciate you guys.
All right, War Eagle.
War Eagle, baby.
All right, well we'll let him go, and we'll get into the summary here. Man, how cool was that? We got Cinmeon Bowers on post game. He mentioned, I think before we started, that he had not got to watch the whole game. We were hoping to maybe do a little summary there, but man, we had a lot of questions we wanted to ask him. I hope we got some of the questions you guys wanted. Just pick his brain. Like I mentioned it about the radio TV thing. I'd heard him on some other things before, and just we all know Cinmeon Bowers has a ton of personality. And I was just, man, I would love to hear him more. And if he's down to jump on the podcast more, we'll have him on anytime he'll come on.
Yeah, super cool. Definitely has been on our list. We've been wanting that one for a while. So hope y'all enjoyed that. We'll timestamp it. I guess if you're listening to this, you'll already have seen that. So never mind.
Yeah.
We almost beat Alabama, Jackson.
Man, it hurts. It hurts 2 times now. Tennessee away and now at home against Bama. It feels like, the one at Tennessee was just one of the all-time best defensive efforts we could have given, and we had our chance and we just couldn't get it. And then this one overall, not just the defense, both defense and offense, at least maybe until the last couple minutes there, I felt like we were playing at peak what this team can do. And I tweeted out that it hurts the most that it feels like we might have played the best basketball game we could have played with the best atmosphere we could have played in Neville Arena and still came up short. I don't know what else to say. Like, there's not is gleaming stuff on this one. I felt good about this game the entire time. And even at halftime, when we were tied. I was like, how are we tied? Everything we're doing is exactly what I wanted us to do. And we're still tied. I feel very disheartened.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two ways, right? It continues this trend of we keep losing quad one games by in close games. I think there's some legitimacy to our late game struggles on offense. Um, but again, it's kind of how you frame it, right? Because I think I just don't know how you can watch that game and watch Alabama this year and not think I hate it. It disgusts me. They're one of the best teams in America. Doesn't mean they're hopefully going to win it, the national title, hopefully, but I mean, they're really good. And I don't know how you could watch that game and not think that. So the only positive in the last 10 days is that we've played two of the top teams in the country and had every opportunity to win late. I mean, that's not a consolation for this group that's now lost 5 of 6 in this just brutal part of the schedule that we've been. It just you would hope you would get 1 or 2 of them, and it just hasn't happened yet. They keep putting their guts out there. I thought the effort was terrific, but there's a lot to get into with how we defended them, and our guys weren't scared. They played well. They were up for the challenge, and they led up until pretty much the whole game until about 7 or 8 minutes left. And then they just had a little rough stretch there, and then it got pretty bad in the last few minutes.
Some of life is about framing expectations and what you wanted out of something. And I think a big framing of these games against Tennessee and Alabama can be twofold. I think I am on one side, Matt's on the other. Matt, I think would argue that we just kept up with the number 3 team in the nation with Alabama shot for shot and just happened to lose at the end.
And they might be the best. They haven't been number 1 yet. They might be the best team in the country.
And they might, I was super impressed. We were so locked in on defense and they just kept hitting things, not necessarily in our face. They just consistently kept getting stuff. And I was like, we're this locked in and we can't rattle them. And they keep keeping up with us. You could think to yourself, we kept up with Tennessee and Alabama. That means we can keep up with anybody. For me, I think you have to watch the game to really feel this way. I thought we played the best basketball this team could possibly play with the players we have today, and we still came up short. And that hurts me a lot more and makes me feel like, I don't know if you can. I know it's because it was Alabama and it was one of the best teams, and maybe we just haven't been that consistent either to be like, hey, if we played this way every game and we lost to Bama and Tennessee, and that'd be fine, but we would have beaten Georgia and we would have beaten Memphis and all these other teams. So it just, for me, I know this isn't consistently what we can do. I know this is a get up for this kind of thing. And the fact that we still couldn't pull it off makes me feel pretty bad and not great about the rest of the season. And just overall, this team's impact on the history of Bruce Pearl teams right now.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. But I think sometimes we get a little result heavy. If we had hit a couple more shots down the stretch and 1 by 1, does that mean that this team all of a sudden is way better than we thought? Or they had some tough calls. They had some rough breaks. I've been saying it kind of jokingly. I think I've seen seasons like this before, and it's hard to put your finger on it, but it just feels like some years you just don't really get any help. And we are not helping ourselves by not hitting shots at a consistent enough rate. People who watch this game would say, if you've watched Auburn all, you're like, hey, our offense wasn't bad. Well, we shot 32% from the field and 29% from 3. And it really fell off after the first, 10 minutes or so. So we still struggle there. And I just, it comes down to these little moments, right? And I think if you watch this game today, it was a great reminder. This felt like a March game because of how much was riding on it for us as a fan base. We really wanted, they would have been 3 in a row against Alabama. It would have really been a huge win for this team, obviously. And every possession mattered. Every turnover mattered. Every stretch with guys in there that you were really scared about mattered. It just, we had to play such a clean game. We almost did it. But just close is not feeling good enough anymore. I think that's kind of what it's very frustrating to keep losing games in these close opportunities.
I've made this comparison a bunch of times, and maybe if I was a little older, I pay attention to Auburn basketball as much as I could have from my entire age, but hey, you're only a certain age or whatever. But that 2019, 2020 team with Austin Wiley and Isaac Okoro and Samir Dowdy and McCormick, they still remind me of this team. That team ended up with a way better record. the difference was they won a lot of close games. I believe they won a bunch of overtime games even that year. They just finished these games and won, and they did have to play teams like Alabama, Tennessee. There just weren't those teams in the league back then. A lot of these like middle teams now are better than what the best teams were even 4 or 5 years ago. And so that team got some luck, and it turned into a season we still talk about because they won those close games. This team keeps losing these close games, not necessarily overtime games or anything like that, but you can tell by watching how close these games have been, and we keep losing them, and it just changes the entire attitude about what we think about this team.
Yeah, and this is kind of the nightmare scenario because now we're just going to have so much pressure on us. Starting Tuesday, quick turnaround against Missouri at home. Missouri is not a bad team. They definitely can beat us. You'd like to say not in Auburn Arena, but this is two. We lost to A&M, who's clearly a pretty good team, and then we lost to Alabama. Close games, but, well, A&M actually kind of came in and blew us out. But so now the pressure's on. We still have at Kentucky. We still have Tennessee at home. We still have Alabama on the road. Obviously, if you win any of those, that's huge. But we haven't seen that, so it's hard to assume. So it's going to put all the pressure in the world on home Missouri, home Ole Miss, and at Vandy. And Vandy's playing pretty well, and Missouri's better than they've been last couple of years.
And we're hitting a part of the schedule that I think even as fans, maybe it's because we do a podcast after everyone, but I think even just as fans in general, they all got so hyped up for this Bama game. And then you just get hit in the face again with the game on Tuesday, even though it's at home, and you got to get hyped up for that again. And then you just keep getting them and then you know that there's the big ones like at Kentucky and at home against Tennessee and at Alabama, but there's all these other ones now that you really feel like you have to win and you have to get up to the same level of hype because they're up, they're going to be hyped up, they're going to be ready, and we can't be taken off in between these. Like, it's so hard to keep your team at 10 out of 10, and that's why it's frustrating today. We played 10 out of 10, still lost. Yep. And then now we're going to have to keep it at least 7, 8, 9. Probably, I mean, this team's just not that great. We're going to have to keep the intensity at like 8 or 9, even to beat Missouri at home.
You better play like we're playing. And again, the encouraging thing is it sucks. It sucks because Bruce kind of spoils you sometimes because he's really good in these spots. He's really good in these spots historically. Yeah, Tennessee, it felt like every time they had a chance like this, they knocked the door down. He's done it at Auburn a lot. Obviously, it stinks that we haven't pulled out one of these, last 3. But and he keeps getting them up. Again, I don't know how you could watch the game and not feel that our team was just well coached. They were prepared. I think we had a really good plan, and we gave ourselves an opportunity, which is, again, is all you ask for. But how many times can we do that? And that's got to be the test for the coaches and the players. It's hard for us as fans. Imagine the players. A lot of energy and effort put out for this every 3 days. And now it's just, I hope we don't tighten up. I was most encouraged today by how loose we played. We played confidently. Our veterans did a really good job. They've been in these games. Hopefully that carries us. I just really wanted one of these last 3.
We'll see if we can carry that looseness. I think we had it like last year. We got so tight because we had these expectations. We had to win. We wanted to keep that number 1. We wanted to be the number 1 seed. Now we knew coming into this Bama game that it was people expect us to lose. Everybody expected us to lose. This was just taking a shot. We were taking a shot at a really great Alabama team. Yep. Now with Missouri and these other teams, like you said, there's gonna be a lot of pressure. We're gonna see if we can play. Yeah, and people you can kind of like forgive a little more. Like, oh, it's a good team we're playing against. Oh, you think you just didn't quite finish that one. That's because we played a good team. You start like not finishing against Missouri and Vandy and them. You might get a little more comments like I would finish against, kind of on the court. So
we're 1 loss away from being in real danger. Like a game and a loss in a game like Tuesday. If we go down to Missouri, it's not panic yet, but it's okay. We will not make the tournament if we don't grab a couple. Like, we've got to grab a couple wins. Our metrics are great. It's helpful that we're losing these close games. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it is helpful when it comes to tournament projection. We're a 9 seed today. We're kind of on the very, very, very front end of the bubble. Today won't hurt us, but we've got to get
what's that last at large for P5 teams? Like it's like the 10th seed.
12.
It's kind of 12. You get a couple 12 seeds like that. Okay, so we're kind of just steadily
11 or 12. We're 10 teams in right now.
We're kind of steadily falling backwards. So we'll see.
And again, you got to always have perspective, right? Kentucky was the last team in for Lunardi today. They lost at Georgia. So they're probably out as of now. North Carolina, I think, won today. They're the last team, second last team in. I mean, it happens to a lot of teams.
We don't keep our expectations on these crappy teams like North Carolina, Kentucky. We're trying to keep up with the Tennessees and Alabama.
I know.
The world is on its head right now. I just hope that we would be, we were last year. We were the team that was like, wow, Auburn, what a world we live in where Auburn's number one and Duke and North Carolina, all these teams are down. But now it's Bama and Tennessee and Kentucky and North Carolina and Duke are all down.
Well, look, the last thing, we need to drill down into this game, but the last thing, big picture, if you're an Auburn person, you just got to keep, it stinks. This is annoying. This has happened a lot in a lot of sports where Auburn does something and then Alabama comes right back and tries to do the same thing. We won the SEC last year. We had a great run, great season. We swept them last year. The best they can do is respond to what we did last year. Now they might make it past the second round, which is something for us to worry about next month. Here's the real frustrating part. If we had just won this game, found a way, not only for us, they would have only been a game up on A&M. And all of a sudden, like, I know A&M doesn't seem as good as them, but it at least put some SEC pressure on them. They're playing so well. It
feels like we locked in their SEC championship, which just really sucks. We're just moving the goalposts now. For the year, even halfway through this year already, I would have been like, just keep them from winning another ring right after ours. Now it's like, well, they've won the ring basically. Let's just get them on a bit of a losing streak or something before the NCAA tournament so they don't get another situation going.
They go to Tennessee, and that's their last really tough game. I mean, that's their last tough game of the year. So
I felt like we had to trigger their downfall this game, then the Tennessee game, and then some others, and we didn't do it. So I can't imagine. And if I'm Bama right now, you just went into the most hostile place you're going to go and got a 10 out of 10 shot and took it and won the game. And you're not going to lose confidence after that one.
Yeah. So that's a lot of big picture stuff. Super frustrating. Tough for these students, I'm sure. Credit to Jungle City, Pearlville. It was great seeing the tents. It was great seeing game day. It's great for the brand, the exposure. I think everything came off really well. But at the end of the day, and it's going to really test our maturity as a fan base. Tuesday.
Can we get up for that game?
It's Valentine's Day. It's Tuesday night.
I can already hear the excuses.
It's Missouri, but I'm just telling you.
Please sell if you can't make it because of Valentine's Day, or you live in Birmingham or Atlanta, or whatever, you just can't drive in for. Please sell your tickets. I guarantee someone will buy the tickets. We put them for $10. Please, we need a full stadium.
And I think, although I'm losing track on the, I've heard from Auburn locals forever that the 6 o'clock games are tough because people don't live there, and the 8 o'clock games are tough because it's too late. Well, pick one. Those are the only two options.
Yeah, I keep hearing the same thing. It's crazy. We're living out here, not coming to the games and then complaining about people that go to the games. But here's my big thing. If we want to get into stats, at first I was like, let's just read them out. But I'm just going to go ahead and dive in on what I think the difference was. And it's twofold. It's points in the paint and it's blocks. I loved the block party. So excited about the block party. I know we lost Walker Kessler, but we still have Dylan Cardwell and Jonai Broom, and we're going to have that party continue. We just got Jonai Broom came in as the third or fourth leading blocker in the nation coming in. Sure, it was from McNeese State, but he came in and showed that he could still do it. And Dylan Cardwell was doing it too. And it has fallen off. Maybe it's partly strategy. I think tonight, the other reason I bring up points in the paint, I think a lot of this came down, and not to blame it on him or anything. He just showed, I think, that Jonai Broom is a great player, really good against a lot of these middle to lower tier SEC teams. Tonight, he could not finish the ball. He went up against the bigs at Bama and just couldn't finish. We didn't get any blocks. It's not just on him in the paint. He couldn't get any blocks in the paint. I think it says he got one. I don't remember that one, but it was also on the guards for getting blown by. But just in general, we used to feel like we had kind of a backup option, and now we don't when they get driven past.
So I have a different takeaway there. We definitely aren't as, it would have been great to lead the nation in blocks 3 straight years. That might be a little greedy. Broom just didn't hit some shots. I didn't think there was anything systemic. We'll see when they play in Tuscaloosa, when they play again. I didn't see anything systemic that says he doesn't belong. I think that's a little overreaction to one game where he got 2 fouls in the first half that were atrocious.
Oh yeah, those sucked. I couldn't believe that, man. Both, and when the ESPN announcers are like being like, yeah, man, that wasn't a foul, then you know it was messed up because they hardly ever not side with the refs. I don't know if that's like a dictate by like the producers, like, hey, don't do the ref thing. But man, when they disagree with the refs, it's like legitimate.
So that's one thing. Now let's points in the paint. I'm glad you brought it up. That's where this whole game lies, in my opinion. People, if you didn't watch this game, if you thought we were a podcast that didn't watch the game, you would look at this, 44-20 points in the paint. Well, why did they get 44, Jackson? It was one of the most interesting, aggressive game plans I've seen an Auburn team have. Alabama is a historically good 3-point shooting team. Look up their season 3-point percentage if you don't mind while I'm talking, because Auburn was holding teams to 27% from three, defensively, fourth best in the country. And Bama shot 29% from three. Brandon Miller was 0 of 7. So we defended the 3-point line very well, but not only did we defend their 3-point attempts, we tried to force them to take twos. We were literally trying to make sure they go inside. So it was very frustrating at times to see us give up a layup or give up a dunk or not be there. But I just want everybody to understand, like, that's what we were trying to do, and it gave us a chance to win the game. Like, I know you can look at the field goal percentage and the points in the paint and be like, oh man, we just got, but we took away their best weapon. And you heard them talk about Bruce in one of the last timeouts. He got really mad. It was Trey. Trey was guilty of not getting up enough out on the perimeter. To be fair, he didn't play a ton, so I know that's hard. But like, he asked the team, where are they more dangerous from 2 or 3? And they had drilled them all week that this team will kill you from 3 if you let them. And we did.
Their season average is 35%. We held them to 29%, which is good. It did feel like when we left them open, they hit them. And when we knew our team, if you've watched this team all this year, that's been one of the most frustrating things, is that we've gotten a lot of decent open looks for our guys and they just don't hit them. And then like the fact that we were locked in on defense, like 90% of the time, it was when that 10% wasn't locked in, they absolutely got it every single time. So it's frustrating that, Bruce also mentioned on College Game Day, and this is such a just coach speech. Like, he's usually really good about not doing coach speech, but I thought that question was unfair by the College Game Day staff. 2 hours before the game, you're going to ask the coach, what's the game plan for beating Bama? Are you kidding? Like, what are you supposed to say? If he has an actual clever plan or something he wants to do, he can't say that 2 hours before the game on College Game Day. But he said the like most coach speak kind of thing, where he's just like, hey, we wanted to make them take tough twos. No dunks and layups, no 3-pointers that are open, make them take tough twos. And that's just general coach speak, but we absolutely didn't make them take tough twos. Now, we did run them off the 3-point line to try to get them. Like, we'd rather a 2 than a 3, but man, they had too many open layups, too many great. I mean, some of them were good finishes too. Some of them were blown assignments on defense, but just overall, it's a trend. It's not a one-time thing. We've been allowing a lot of points in the paint, and it's just also frustrating on top of that we can't seem to get the block party going again. We don't seem to quite, like you said, the fouls with Broom and everything. It just feels like we had kind of a more tenacity in the block scenario.
Yeah. I just think there's a lot of conversation there. I think we clearly had that's what we decided to do, and it worked. I mean, I know you can say it didn't work because they won, but I don't know. There's an amazing thing, and I don't want to brag about Alabama, but they are the best team in the SEC as of before this game, from 2 on offense, from 3 on offense, from 2 on defense, and from 3 on defense. They're the best in all those categories.
In the SEC?
In the SEC, I believe that's correct.
I was trying to find where they sit 3-point percentage wise in the NCAA, and they're not in the top 50. I don't see them. They might be in the top. I don't even know if they're in the top 100. Yeah, they're not even in the top 100. So they're not like the most killer 3-point shooting team. But you're right. They'll hurt you from there. Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't take much watching Brandon Miller to be like, oh, that's trouble. Like, we got lucky. He got a couple clean looks and he missed them today, but he was perfect from 2. And that's what makes Alabama tough. And what I kept trying to say when people were kind of downplaying them the last few years, their style of play is really tough. Like, they're playing NBA basketball with layups and threes. And I'm sure there's some cleanup. You're right. We blew some assignments. But they're the number 2 team in the country. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Just from the eye test look, and it's part of the reason John Broom, in my opinion, didn't play well is because he went up against trees when he had to go up this time. He had a couple times where he went up to go get his usual dunk on kind of a pass through and didn't work out. He got blocked or he couldn't finish because he had 3 guys around him. And some of this comes down to like recruiting. Like we love our small guards, we love our little feisty guys. That's who we can get. But man, then you look across and every one of their players is several inches taller than our players. And they could finish at the rim past our guys. I mean, there was one I remember. There was like not necessarily a blown assignment, just some good switches, and it got Wendell, and Wendell was trail. I was like, well, what are you gonna do? That's just we haven't been recruiting 6'6" guys that can shoot 30+% from 3 and drive the ball. And we love it when Jalen can do it. When Jalen can hit a transition 3, that's like found points or like that's what we were hoping for. They had 3 or 4 guys like that. And what are they doing in Canada? How do they keep getting these Canadians? And why are these Canadians so good? Like, what is going on?
We need an investigation from your company you work for.
I want Canada investigated. I want the weird Vescovi Uruguay situation where he was playing like semi-pro ball there and he came halfway through the year. I want Shibwe NIL deals in the Bahamas investigated because he had to do all his NIL stuff in the Bahamas because if you're a foreign player, you can't make NIL money because of your visa. Anyways, that's a rant. There's some weird stuff going on.
A lot of weird stuff going on. So it was an interesting strategy for us. It obviously kept us in the game. We overall did a really good job at making their threes tough. And they missed threes and they missed free throws, as you would kind of hope on the road in Neville Arena. I think all that played out. We won pretty much every meaningful statistical category. We out-rebounded them.
Read them out for them. Let's get the audience some different stuff we won here. Maybe tell the winning ones.
Again, take the shooting out. We got to the line more. We made a higher percentage from the line. We won turnovers. We won points off turnovers. We won rebounding. We won offensive rebounding. We got more steals. I mean, so we did a lot really well against an elite team. Now a lot of that's home. Sure, we're at home. We'll see how they handle Tuscaloosa in a few weeks. But there was a lot of good there. There really was. And it felt like the kind of game that was just going to be decided by all these, it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's these little, and I was texting y'all in the first half. It's KD. We got to talk about all these players because KD played incredibly well today. He really did. But you can't leave your guy against this Alabama team to go get a steal and give up a 3. You just can't. I know that's not why we lost. It's just really frustrating.
Well, like I said, man, we were locked in like 90% of the time. If this is the effort in the game we play all that way, we'd only have 2 or 3 losses all year if we played this way all year. And like I said, just shout out to, I don't want to shout them out, but they showed how good they are. When the 10% that we weren't locked in, they made us pay every single time. They never missed that open 3 or missed that open layup or missed that open pass or anything like that. One of the weird statistics that if you didn't watch the game, you wouldn't think it was a big deal. We ended up with 26 free throw attempts. They ended up with 23 free throw attempts, which is really crazy if you watch the game because at halftime we were blowing them away with free throw attempts. I thought we were going to have to come on because I think last game I think it was Texas A&M last game. We talked about the free throw difference, and that's kind of why we lost the game. We were heading that way. We were going to win a game with that free throw difference. And if you watch, it was because we were driving the ball and getting a lot of good, there was some weird, it wasn't quite like Texas A&M, but it's just what a huge reverse. And I was saying it when we started not being in the bonus, like halfway through the second, and they started going to the free throw line, they evened it up. I can't believe when we had a plus 11, 12, 13 free throw attempts, that they evened it up in the second half. And that's, we end up losing the game.
It's worse than that because Wendell got fouled on 2 threes. So he got 6 free throws in the second half. That would have made that imbalance a lot worse. It did feel like Alabama, and again, I think this is a great point you've had before. When you lack a little bit of size, we can play really good defense. But if the game starts getting called tightly and guys can just drive in, kind of like KD does. If you're playing a whole team of guys who can just dribble, put their head down and go to the rim, and they're going to call a little bit of contact, which in this game felt really weird because it was so physical. I mean, we were defensively in the first half, we were impacting ball screens. We had our hands on guys. Like we were playing kind of Bruce the way, and then it shifted, and maybe it's kind of like I forget if it was you or Ben. Somebody was talking about like that, making that adjustment is really important.
And maybe it wasn't like, there's very obvious games where you're like, screw these refs for doing this or that, or it was an interesting game for sure. If you watch it, a lot of hand checking, really rough stuff, but then at the same time, there were plenty of weird little fouls too. The foul on Broom that shouldn't have happened early in the game where he stole the ball from him and then called it. Little hand check stuff. Like there was not necessarily like a night and day like there was at Texas A&M, but there was definitely like, what's going on? They're playing really rough, and like Wendell always gets stuff where he gets rebounds, stuff just gets tugged on the shoulder, nothing gets called. KD like had a whole rotation there where he took over the game. It was really fun to watch, and we'll get really into KD, but he did all that. And then later in the game, he tried to do it again at times, wouldn't get the foul call. And you're like, oh, what is this? What do we do here? And it was, luckily it felt kind of even overall and felt like there wasn't night and day stuff, so I can't complain too much. But if you watch the game, you'll kind of understand how crazy it is that we ended up pretty even on free throw attempts.
I did want to brag on I wanted to mention two guys on Alabama's team. Brandon Miller gets a lot of the, deserved credit. He's really good. He's the Jabari Smith model. Maybe a little better driving to the lane, driving to the rim. Sears was terrific on that point guard. I thought he really hounded Wendell the whole day. Wendell played really well, but Sears was great. He had some huge shots, 15 points on 7 shots, hit multiple threes. I thought he was probably the difference maker, honestly. And then I do want to point out Quinterly, who Auburn fans will remember. He recently said they were going to come in and beat us by 30, which they did win. They did not blow us out. But he used to be like really good, and then he tore his ACL, and now he's back. But he played 11 minutes and shot the ball one time. So I'm sure the jungle was ready to give him a hard time, and then he was just pretty irrelevant, and we didn't win. So
what's those turnover numbers there? 14 for Alabama. What's
14
ours?
to 11.
Okay, and then I see fast break points. They had 14. We had 7. We've talked about it on this podcast a million times. What is this team's personality? What are Bruce's team's personalities over the years? Like it's gotten to a point where he's shown so many sides of his coaching career, so many different kinds of teams that I don't know if we can kind of put our finger on anything yet. And I'm sometimes with this team, I'm not sure. I miss when we used to at home in these big arenas be killing the fast breaks, be always on top of the turnovers. And we beat them in turnovers this time, but going back to the refs a bit, there was several times that felt like was going to be that moment, that steal that was going to be led to a dunk that was going to blow the roof off the building. And they'd either like one was for us, they called it, a grabbing foul just to stop the game. It could have been a cool big dunk. A couple other times where it looked like we had the steal that was breaking out, and they would call like some tic-tac foul that I didn't think should have been called. It was weak. So I don't know. That was what you're supposed to be great at. And there's like rattling the other team. And I never felt like we really rattled the other team.
No, yeah, Alabama showed a lot. They were really we had them on the ropes a couple times. Yeah, maybe not on the ropes. We had them where we had a chance to get up more than 5 or 6 and kind of really build a lead, and we just never could quite get away. And then ultimately, I don't know if we want to talk about this. Like to me, the game, it really shifted. It from that segment from like 12 minutes left to 8 minutes left in the second half. We had held the lead almost the whole game. Jalen got 2 quick, kind of soft fouls in the second half. He had 3 early. We went to Chris Moore. Chris Moore struggled, and Bruce ended up keeping Leor in a long time because Flan had 3 fouls. He kept Chris Moore in till like under 8. So Jalen wasn't out there, and then Flan was, but then Trey was playing at the same time, and Wendell was off. And I hate
there's at least one rotation where there was not a single guy I wanted shooting the ball. It was Trey, KD, Leor, Chris Moore, and Cardwell. I was like, oh, no. And it was during a really important part of the game. Like,
it might have been Broom.
I remember for a brief moment that was what it was. I think there was like what it was? It was like that play you didn't like where we turned the ball over and Trey immediately like went all the way down to like 1-on-3. And I'm pretty sure that was that lineup. And I was like, hey man, like you were upset. I was like, there's no one on this team I want to shoot. So I rather him just take his chance. You're like, not 1-on-3.
But you have to shoot. That's the point. Like if you don't even it's one thing to go 1-on-3 and try to get a foul or get a shot up on the rim. He just gave up the ball. He just couldn't help it.
So there was some tough rotations. We like to think we're 10 deep, but when we play a great team like this, all of a sudden some of those guys get a little exposed. You talk about Leor minutes. We love Leor, but he was definitely on skates a lot during this game, and he had his good moments too, but KD really, for us KD haters and like Lior truthers, this game really showed out like the difference between those guys. KD can be so frustrating and so give it, take it away, so Jekyll and Hyde. And he had a great time, great moments, but even outside those great moments, he's just really athletic. And then you watch Lior be on skates around, and you're like, oh, like at least the wild card of KD is there. Lior just, it was his open three that I would argue he could do, and now he's like passing up the open three a little too often, and then he
also
definitely can't
airballed.
dribble.
He airballed his open
Yeah.
three. So
it's not great.
We're not an anti-Lior podcast, but that's why it's so stupid and silly when people on this podcast and otherwise think we should bench KD Johnson. It just makes no sense in the world. I know it's frustrating. Y'all go listen to the podcast from last year when I was reacting to KD in real time. I was losing my mind on that great Auburn team because it was just so inconsistent. But the bench, you hit a great point. That I know we've talked about it a lot. That was our thing, right? We were going to be deep. Well, part of that was Chance and Johan being part of that group. They're completely out now. And I love Lior. I love Zepp, who's a starter, but basically a backup. I love Trey. I like these guys. But the reality is, in a game like this, it just, look at the box score if you're watching on YouTube. I mean, it's just glaring. I know they don't play as much, but there's just no productivity from those guys at all.
It's a goose egg. Cardwell got 2, but everybody else goose egged all the way down on points.
Not even just points, Jackson. I mean, who's grabbing rebounds? Cardwell had 3 in 12 minutes. He had a great alley-oop dunk. That was great. And his grandfather, was great to see with the outlive cancer thing. His grandfather hadn't gotten to see him play in a long time. Great story. Love all those guys. But we are not quality 10 deep anymore against elite competition, which is fair. We are 10 deep against a lot of teams we play, and it does help us. But it is not to the level that we had hoped.
It's all these big picture conversations we had in the off season and early in the season of, can we really match up? Like, we can match up 10 deep with some of the middle of the pack SEC teams and the lower level teams, but can we really, do we have the ceiling we need to beat the Bamas and the Tennessees and what we thought the Kentuckys and the Arkansas and things like that? And I don't think we do. I think it's proven out, and it just sucks to feel that way, that we can play 10 out of 10 and still get beat at home. Like, what's this going to be away? I think you're kind of seeing, and Matt makes these funny faces if you're on YouTube. I don't care for YouTube really, but it is funny to see our funny faces. I don't know.
You're right. But again, I just don't know if we can overestimate. Nobody expected Johan and Chance to not be playing. Like, on our staff, nobody expected that. So that's a problem. And we did almost beat both those teams that you said we can't beat. And we had every opportunity to make plays to win those games. So we are not that good. I agree with your point, but we can't have it both ways, right? Like, either we have to really appreciate what the coaches are doing and giving us a chance to win these games. And you can say they should have recruited better players. That's fine. But we can't fix that right now. It's either or. And I think we've at least shown, I'm at least encouraged. If there's one thing I'm taking out of this week, is I hadn't seen us play a great team all year, and we were still losing a lot. So now at least I've seen us play 2 top 5 teams, and we had chances to beat both, one on the road, one at home. So
it'll all come down to Tuesday a bit. Like, these games are getting so important. It's crazy, but that should have been what this team's personality is with a lot of vet players, was we don't lose the games we're not supposed to lose. And sure, we lose to Bama and Tennessee.
We lost to Georgia, which we shouldn't have lost, but they beat Kentucky today at home. I mean, like,
the Georgia-Memphis one's hurt just because if they put those 2 in, and this team feels like, hey, yeah, we lose to the elite ones, but we are consistent everywhere else. So don't lose to Texas A&M at home. That's a bad one too. Yeah, I know they're good. I know they've only lost 2 games, but like at home, that was a big, before the season started, defend home court. We have to win all our home games. Luckily, we've won away games, so it's made up for it. But it hurts. It hurts to lose to Texas A&M home when you have Bama at home like this.
It does. And we knew it looking at the schedule. Like, it just, the margin for error is so small. But let's talk about a few players before I'm sure we won't talk too long because we're both, I think, pretty irritated that we didn't win this game. I thought Wendell was terrific against an elite team until the last 3 minutes. I don't even want to spend too much time on it. I think a lot gets thrown at his feet from our fan base, because of some of the coaching situations. And he is kind of looked at to make play. And he really, the second half, man, like he had 24. I know he shot a lot, but he made 4 threes. He was 6 for 8 at the line. He did a lot of good things. I guess only 2 assists. You might look at him and be like, maybe he wasn't getting guys involved as much. But the way Alabama was playing us was giving Wendell that shot coming down the pike off that high ball screen. And I thought the first 35 minutes of the game, I just thought, it's great to see him play good games against longer, tougher, bigger competition.
I mean, really, like, we're going to go down this list, and the only guy that was like, man, if he could just play what I thought he could play, we would have won, and it's Joe Knight Broom, and we've already talked about it. Wendell, I thought, played really fun, really fantastic, great game.
1 for 9 from Flame is pretty rough.
From Flame, yeah, we'll talk about that, but Wendell, like, I texted at one point, he was getting the Sharif Cooper fouls, which I really love to see, like the kind of fouls where you're like, they're crafty, I'm faster than you, and I'm going to make you foul me kind of situation. Like, if you watch Sharif Cooper, man, fantastic player. Just such a shame we didn't get more of them. But Wendell had a couple of those tonight where, like, it's so frustrating from the other side. You're like, he did that on purpose. Like, the guy didn't even slap at him. Like, but you're like, it is a foul, and he caused you to make that foul. And that's the crazy part. And he did those a couple of times. He had his free throws, which were good. Hit some big threes that were big. I talk about, is Wendell's logo 3 in offense or not? Are those bonus? Can I rely on those? And he hit them tonight, and it kept us in the game at times. And I just thought overall he played a really good game.
I thought he was terrific. Jalen, typical Jalen game. First half, just you see the freaking hype. You see everything you want to see, both ends of the floor. I kind of not challenged him on the pod, but we were talking about, like, this is going to be a game. Like, you're going to be stuck with Brandon Miller a lot, and you're going to be guarding him, and he's going to be guarding you. And, like, in first half, I mean, he had 14 points in the first half, didn't miss a shot, I don't think. Just elite. He's still 16 points on 8 shots. But again, where was he in the second half? Where
disappeared for a big chunk of it. And it felt like that was the chunk that was the Chris Moore chunk. I know he's in foul trouble, but
he was in foul trouble, and he only played 28 minutes, a little lower than usual. But look, and again, I'm sure it's just driving Bruce like insane, because you see the possibilities when he does it outside the framework of the offense. It's like, it's there. There's some really good stuff there. But it's like, I guarantee you, if he had to go back a little bit, he'd say, maybe we should have gotten Jalen the ball in that, like, elbow area, like going in the lane for that little floater a couple times in the second half when we were, you know what I mean? I know he had to be sitting. And I texted y'all at 12 minutes left. I coming out of that timeout, it's like, I feel like we need Jalen. And I know I'm a Jalen truther, but then, like, that 4-minute stretch, we stuck with Chris all the way to like 7:20, 7:30 left. And I'm not saying Jalen would have made a difference necessarily. I know he didn't want to pick up his 4th foul, but he ended up, it's always I don't know. He ended up getting one later, so maybe he would have fouled out if we had done that. It's always, you can second guess it. But Jalen, I don't know what to say. I think we've discussed Jalen to death.
3 of 6 from 3. That was the big thing. He had an amazing transition 3. Anytime we can get one of these, like, passes up a layup for a 3 that we hit, it's amazing, because we used to love those, the Bryce Brown and some of the past teams. We don't get that much now, but he had a little dribble away from a defender and hit the big open 3 that makes the roof come off Neville Arena, which was fun. I mean, he was hot from 3 this game, and that seems to be the games where Jalen has a good scoring line, when he gets hot from 3. I hate that. I mean, it's great that that's part of his game. I mean, but it's become too much of his game, where I want his game to be like eating 10 to 15 points down low, being physical, and he doesn't do that. He scored more than half his points from the 3 line.
He has this year quite a bit, but yeah, he's got to do both. He's got to do both, and I'm okay with him doing both. And I just want to point out, and maybe we can talk about KD, because other than that transition 3, his other 2 threes were off just dime passes from KD Johnson, wide open, great looks, in rhythm. And I thought, again, just KD, like, yeah, he missed. He was 0 for 3 from 3. And there was one late that was wide open, that if he makes it, it's a 1-point game and we have a chance to win, get a stop and try to win the game. So, yeah, like, he's got to be better. But he was fantastic. He had 7 rebounds at his size in a game like this. 3 assists. I swear he had more than that. He dished the ball really well. He did force it a couple times. He did gamble once on defense and got burned. But, like, again, you look at the bottom of our roster, like, no one else can do that. No one else can have a good half like that gave us I wish we had been up at halftime and not tied, but like without KD, we're sunk.
This is the only game, I think. I mean, maybe there's something out of conference I missed, but I think this is the only game all year that KD Johnson played to the expectations of what I had for him coming into the year. He went on a little run at one point for maybe a full rotation, maybe even 2 rotations, where he was going in there and it was his game. He was driving the ball. He was getting the foul call. He was finishing the drives. He was getting turnovers. It was great. And he took over. It's exactly when we need him to take over, when there was like less offensive players in the game. And it was like, man, this is I almost forgot. This is the KD from last year. And it's crazy. Like that one rotation is kind of where he did most of his work. He got 12 points, 0 of 3 from 3, but 7 rebounds, 3 assists. A lot of it all came down to that one little section. I think he scored 8 or 9 points in that little section there. And that's what he should be doing every night. This is against Alabama, one of the best teams. I don't know what happened from last year, this year, but if I think backwards, this is kind of what he did last year. He had his little parts of the game. He never had kind of a consistent game the majority of the time. He usually went on these little spurts. And sometimes last year it was when we really needed it badly, and that's why we remember so much. But if I think about it last year, a lot of games he had it at some point during the game. He would have a little spurt where he would hit a couple shots in a row and have a couple drives in a row that made the other team respect him. This is the only game he's done that in all year. So I can't, like, if he does it again next game or the game after that, I can kind of be like, all right, he's turning the corner. We were wrong about KD Lior. I just think this might be, the bad that Lior did today and the good that KD today is not a consistent thing. It's not a trend. It's a one-time thing right now.
But I don't know how you can watch our team and not see that we are. I mean, I know it's a bad chance, but it's a chance we have to take to keep him in the lab. I mean,
and this might be another one of those conversations where what are players' ceilings? We talked about what are the ceilings. KD's got a good ceiling on him. He's also got a bad floor against team when we play these lower level teams, and we don't want to lose to the Georgias and the Memphises and the Texas A&Ms. They're not lower level necessarily, but he can be a detriment against these lower level teams where Lior is just consistently not very high ceiling. His basement is not as low, and it just sucks that KD has hit his basement so many times this year that it's like, man, like if he's got a ceiling of an 8 and a basement of a 4 or something, and Lior's ceiling is a 6 and a basement of a 4 or whatever, Lior just keeps hitting 5, 6s. And I'm like, KD, how do you keep rolling a 4 over and over again? How do you keep doing the worst you could have possibly done over and over again?
Well, and it's a classic expectations thing too. I think you guys and me, sometimes we fall in love with guys that like, hey, just be average and just like be out there and not hurt the team. Like, that's great. You don't win with guys like that. You can use them to burn up minutes, but
Zep is kind of that guy this year. That's just like, hey, you're not a detriment. You're not a positive. I mean, I'm sure he's a positive. I'm just saying he's not winning us anything.
We need guys to score on this team, and I just think it's crazy. Now, that's 4 out of 5 games in double figures for KD. It hasn't always been. It's never going to be super efficient.
This is the first one I felt good about those double digits, just being like, that was a great double digit.
You were married to your take. I mean, that's not he's showing signs. I've been saying that for 3 weeks. Like, he's showing signs of it. Now, do I expect him to do it every game? No. And that's what
the biggest sign I wanted to see, though, because some of this comes down to what they're calling these referees and stuff. Some of that, his run was just, he got calls on his run. He didn't later in his run. He had a drive or two that he just threw the ball straight up in the air, I think, on one of them. That was like, where were you going? The biggest thing I would love to see from him, and would change my opinion totally, is hit the open freaking threes. And that one you're talking about at the end of the game, where it was like, that would have kept us in the game and like given us a good chance to win at the end. He was so wide open, and it took a while to like, for that shot. Like, I was like saying out loud in my living room, like, of all the threes, just this one. I was like spirit bombing Dragon Ball Z style, like, just hit this one. And it didn't go. And I was like, God, that's so typical.
That's killer. But I love games where he leads us in assists. I think that's a sign. Like, that's more that stuff. And then defensively, he's really been more conservative defensively in a good way this year for a lot of the year. But we need him. We need him. We need him to score.
We could talk about maybe Flanagan next. We had 30 minutes out of him, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 0 of 2 from 3. We've really got to have him hit. I think we've kind of like in that run there where he was playing a lot better. We were like, man, if he plays like this, you don't know where he's going to go and what this team can do. He was kind of hitting like 1 of 3, 1 of 2 from 3, maybe 2 of 4. And that was really helping us in our bad 3-point shooting. He didn't hit one today, took a charge today. 6 rebounds is good, but just overall didn't feel like he was impacted the game in the way we needed him to.
Yeah, I really think we're onto something with the how many guys are hitting threes thing. Like when you look at it, Jalen was great, Wendell was great. Nobody else made one. And you think about the looks, right? Like we're offensively challenged at times. When you get open looks, we don't need everybody to make them. We just need a few. And Chris had a wide open corner 3 he missed. Zep had 2 beautiful wide open threes, I think, to start both halves and just didn't hit them. Lior had a wide open one airballed. And then Flan was 0 for 2. I think 1 was open, 1 was forced. And then KD, I think 2 of his 3 were just wide open. So, like, again, just need a couple guys. And when we have 5 or 6 guys hit a 3, I know it seems like a small thing, but I just feel like it helps stretch. Like, they were completely dialed in with Wendell, and it really makes what Wendell did today pretty amazing, because I think people know that that's who they need to stop.
I mean, it sucks. Like we talked about, there's so many guys on the team, and we know some of these guys can hit threes. It's like throwing a dice. You would think if you threw the dice this many times with this many opportunities, with a KD, with a Flanagan, with a Zep, with a Chris Moore, just by luck standpoint, one of those is going to go in.
And they do.
Didn't.
They do sometimes. They didn't
some
today.
Games. They didn't today, and that's a part of the reason here. If we're looking down the list, anybody else? We've talked Broom, we've talked KD, we've talked Wendell, we've talked Jalen. Maybe real quick, we've already talked Chris Moore, but I just want to read his stat line, and it kind of underlines like, yeah, he was injured, and now we're asking him to play the 4 position undersized, and I don't know if it's one or the other or both combined, but 12 minutes, 3 turnovers, 1 foul, 0 points, 1 rebound. That's it. I mean, he had more turnovers than any other stat.
And it's a valid conversation. There was another conversation we were having about if Flanagan fouled out, would we play somebody else at a different position? I'm not going to ask you that question, but I mean, do you want Johan minutes instead of Chris Moore minutes?
But at this point, maybe you've already taken him out. You've already given up on the experiment. You can't really do it at this point. I know you and Ben were arguing about it on the text if you would throw Johan in there. I agree with you. I wouldn't have thrown Johan in because he's not ready in a game like this. But I would have never I would have never taken away what we were doing. That 5 to 10 minutes we were letting him play, I thought was just right. And he did show these itty bitty little bit of glimpses.
The listeners will remind us that no, you were not okay with 5 or 10 minutes. You wanted him to be playing a lot more than Jalen's.
At one point, yeah, I want him to be like earlier in the season, like mid out of conference, late out of conference. I wanted him to really get those minutes because we knew we had a ceiling situation going on. And I think it's proving out a little bit here with trying to play Chris Moore behind that. It's just he can't keep up. And then Johan, I mean, but we've seen it.
I want to believe in something as much as you guys believe in Johan from what we saw this year. I don't know what you see other than a 5-star ranking. Now, I hope he's going to be way better next year, and I hope he's going to like be ready. But like, I don't know what
I see a 6'7", 6'8" athletic dude, and I see a 6'5" less athletic Chris Moore and injured. But
I mean,
this is my thing with Johan. I would have kept playing that 5 minutes, and just this team is not a great team, and I would just kept gambling that maybe one day this guy turns the corner. As much as that gamble has gotten, the odds on the gamble have gotten worse and worse over time. When you don't have a great hand to play with to begin with, you just keep throwing that gamble out and hope that you would get lucky, honestly, that you hit the snake eyes or whatever, even though everybody says you're never going to hit it.
That part I agree with. And maybe the second, I mean, I know this is going to offend a lot of people. What we really did was prioritize Lior Berman's minutes more than Johan's. And that, I think you can second guess that a little bit.
Yeah, I guess that gamble kind of comes down to, do you want to make sure we win the bad games and make sure we win the middle of the pack games versus trying to win these big ones? And I think that was, in my head, that's what it comes down to.
Neither of them are going to help us do either of those things. But
yeah, I don't know. It's not great. It's not a good situation. We've gotten into it about all that. So let's look at some SEC standings here, see where we're at. It just sucks that I don't even care as much anymore about the SEC standings because we're not in it. We're not like relevant. Now we're trying to like play this game if we can get the 4 spot, which is actually still
We're
in
tied
play.
for fourth. We're tied for fourth. Double
It
bye.
doesn't. I just don't believe that it matters, even if we
No,
get the fourth
it
spot now. When it used to be like, oh, we can go on a run or something. Now, like, oh, let's just get it for the sake of getting it. Yeah.
You know, if you're looking at the standings, we mentioned Alabama plays at Tennessee next. So if Tennessee were to win that game in Knoxville, that would put A&M and Tennessee kind of in play to try to chase Alabama down if Alabama lost a game or two down the stretch. So that's, but if they go into Knoxville and beat Tennessee after coming in and beating us, then there's nobody.
We're looking at like record-breaking territory at that point, which is just I couldn't stand.
So we're tied for fourth with Kentucky, who lost to Georgia today. Missouri is 6-5. They're in Knoxville tonight, so we'll see how they do. That's our next opponent. Arkansas is doing their thing. They're going to beat Mississippi State today at home probably, and they're going to be tied with us, fourth place in the SEC.
And I heard somewhere that Nick Smith, their big number 1 overall guy, might be coming back in the next game or two.
Now, shocker.
As soon as they're playing a little better, he might come back, and then like that'll be the most Arkansas thing you've ever seen in your life. I don't know if I guess they're still supposed to make the tournament. I mean, they're below Kentucky in the SEC, so and I know Kentucky. You think they'll get in just at the very skin of their teeth, and then they'll go on a little run?
They have better wins. It's you always have to remember the NCAA. That has nothing to do with the SEC standings. It's more about how your schedule is and who you've played and where you've played, and yeah.
It sure was fun beating the mess out of South Carolina and LSU. They're at the very bottom with like LSU's got 1 win, South Carolina's got 2, and that one of two of South Carolina's wins is in Lexington against Kentucky. But man, those are fun.
Ole Miss has really fallen off a cliff, and I think one of their best players stepped away from the team. So we get them at home for 1 game, but we're at 7 conference wins. Like that only gets you to 8. 9 would be 9-9 in the league. Like you got to at least get 2. Really, I think we need 3. I think if we get 3, no matter what the 3 are, I think we're in. So that's the number I'm chasing.
I'm really maybe I'm just keep setting myself up for disappointment over and over again. I want us like to feel good about the end of the season. Be like, man, we figured it out a bit. And we're okay. Like it wasn't the best season, but like we did what we could with this roster. We basically have to win every mediocre SEC game we have left and take one of the 3 of Alabama, Kentucky, or Tennessee. And now at Kentucky, they're not that great this year. It may break the curse of not beating Kentucky and Lexington since the 1980s. Like basically what I'm coming down to is we can't really lose any more crappy games. The Missouris, the Vandies, they're not crappy necessarily, but like we can't lose those games. And like otherwise that's going to really put us in the danger zone and like the miserable zone. And then give me 1 great win this year that I can point back to. We do not have that. We just got off the phone with Simi Bowers. They beat Kentucky in like his first year, I believe, or his second year. Just give me something like that. Give me 1 to look back on. And when we talk to the players from this team in next year, wherever we get them, and hopefully we're still doing this in several years from now, we can go back and ask these guys, we can bring up 1 game. Right now we don't have a game to bring up. So give me at Lexington, give me at Bama in some sort of insane surprise. Give me Tennessee at home to finish the season, and you can feel like, all right, we did something this season that we can look back on.
Yeah, I mean, look, if this team that we've been watching ended up 11-7 in the league with a good win there and the 3 that we should get, and we're 21-10, I mean that's pretty good. And we get this back-to-back NCAA tournaments, which we've talked about. Like getting there repeatedly is the name of the game if we want to be a top program. Well,
I'll be changing the goalpost again if we can't get one of those big 3 and we win the other ones and make it to the NCAA tournament. My goalpost will be, man, it's just good to make the NCAA tournament again. Give yourself another shot. Give yourself something to talk about in March. That's what we tried to do. But man, I just keep moving that goalpost, trying to keep perspective on this season as something successful.
Yeah, brutal, man. We've come so close. Really, the last 3 games. I know A&M wouldn't have been quite as sweet as at Knoxville or Alabama at home, but stinks to fall short. I hate it for the kids. The kids are playing hard. You just hope they've got it. Like you said, like the kids, the coaches, Neville Arena, like Missouri game is really important. We can't, at this point, it is all hands on deck. Let's go. We need to, this is 5 out of 6, Jack. When's the last time we lost 5 out of 6 games?
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I'm curious to see our listenership. We're losing 5 out of 6 games,
Going
man.
down. Anyway,
Hopefully we'll keep it fun with some, even if we're losing games, maybe if we can keep getting some former players on and some other fun. We'll try to keep it fun. But thanks for listening, guys, and hopefully we'll have a couple of positive ones down the stretch. We're looking forward to the Vandy game in Nashville. If you're in Nashville, let us know. We have some, I think maybe Ryan will be there. I know for sure Matt will be there. Yeah, it'll be fun. War Eagle, man.